Hello and welcome to the Library of Ideas of the Global Forum on Democratizing Work. My name is Julie Battilana and I am a professor at the Harvard Business School and at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where I research and teach on power and the politics of change in organizations and in society. Today, I'd like to speak with you about power, this mesmerizing, but still broadly and quite vastly misunderstood force that's present in all human relations. Now, why power? Because it's essential to understand power if we wish to move towards the three levers my co-authors and myself have identified in the Working Manifesto: democratization, decommodification, and decarbonization. Power cuts across all three of these levers. Without understanding power, we risk never fully achieving the changes that are necessary to preserve the planet and build a fairer and more democratic society. Now, let me explain why. We know that changing our economic system is necessary, but that it won't be easy. That's because such change is bound to challenge the dominant culture, the existing norms, and the power hierarchies that are associated with these norms in our society. Now, those who have power today may fear that they will lose it if the status quo is shifted. And so they're quite likely, obviously, to fight to prevent change. As an organization scholar, my theoretical and empirical research concentrates on the study of changes that diverge from power hierarchies. And one thing that I've learned through the studies that I have conducted and in working with social change makers across the world is that understanding power and its dynamics is critical to the success of social change initiatives. Yet, power remains vastly misunderstood. So the question becomes, then, what is power? And how can we use it to overcome resistance to the critical social and economic changes our manifesto outlines? I've just published a book titled Power for All: How It Really Works and Why It's Everyone's Business. And that book is meant to answer precisely these questions. So what is power? Power is the ability to influence other people's behavior. But that is a definition, not an explanation. To explain power, we have to go one step further and ask, where does this ability come from? What I explain in the book that I co-authored with my dear friend and co-author Tiziana Cacharo is that when we distill power down to its core, when we distill power down to what we call the fundamentals of power in the book, we see that power comes from control over access to resources that others value. You have power over me if you control access to resources that I value, and I have power over you if I control access to resources that you value. Now, humans certainly value material resources like money or land, but these are not the only resources they value. We also value psychological resources such as a sense of autonomy, achievement, affiliation, or feeling moral. Now, once we understand where power comes from, it really becomes clear that there are two key things that we can do to redistribute power in society. We can either change what people value and or change who controls access to the valued resources. Now, in terms of changing what we value, neoliberal capitalism has put the pursuit of profit on the pedestal at the expense of everything else. Our worth as humans has come to revolve around our ability to accumulate money, and that stigmatizes anyone who isn't considered economically valuable. Consider essential workers like hospital janitors, delivery people, or supermarket cashiers. The term essential worker is abundantly deserved, but such workers have been undervalued and under-recognized until the pandemic made their service to our community visible and explicit. Meanwhile, CEOs are still paid over 350 times what the average worker takes home. Now, what we now need to do if we want to change what is valued is to move beyond merely the financial and recognize the various ways in which both people and organizations can create not only financial, but also social and environmental value. We should, for instance, consider not only a company's profit, but also how it treats its employees, its environmental impact, and its contributions to community cohesion and welfare. Now, as I mentioned, to change the distribution of power, we can not only change what we value, we also can change who controls the valued resources. This is where democracy comes into play. Democratic ways of organizing enable us to deliberate and to decide together on the rules of the game in our workplaces and in society more broadly. Yet 2020 marked the 15th consecutive year democracy was in decline globally. Combating this decline requires that we fight to protect and enhance our democracies, not only at the national level, but also in workplaces, where power concentration is still very much taken for granted. In each of these arenas, we must both share power more equitably and build the systems and competencies to hold those in power accountable. Understanding the fundamentals of power, namely the importance of controlling access over valued resources, can help us build the power we need to democratize work, decommodify labor, and decarbonize the economy as we reimagine and rebuild our communities in the wake of the pandemic. Now, we know from history, and I've seen in my own research, that crises like the one that we're currently experiencing help us create and implement changes that break with the existing power hierarchies, that break with the status quo. The pandemic is certainly one of these inflection points. We have an opportunity to transform the future of work by giving workers more voice, autonomy, and power over their lives, their livelihoods, and the future of the companies they work for. Thank you very much for listening. We hope that you will join us at the Global Forum and that you will use this event to share your ideas with each other, with all of us, and I very much look forward to joining you there. Thank you so much for your attention.